Hey everybody, it's the Becoming a Community Builder program, part of Leadership, what is this called? Boot Camp. This is like the fourth one in a day and a half. This is Leadership Boot Camp. This is the Fort McMurray Becoming a Community Builder portion. And here we are at Keno College in the Elements Room. Thank you for joining us on the archive. Okay, so how many of you responded to my challenge to take the person that made a significant difference, a significant leader in your life? Who took the challenge to contact them? Did anybody do that? All right, tell us that story. Who wants to share the contact and how it went? Who wants to share? Yes, sir.
Well, it was pretty easy because I still have contact with the person.
Oh, okay.
More or less, now I know he's not working where he used to work.
Okay.
I had almost 6 months without contacting him.
Okay.
Used to work in Austria, now he's working in Russia, sorry, in Romania.
Romania, okay.
But basically, he already knows was a huge impact on my career.
So you called him?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I have his contact, email, phone number. It was funny because I didn't have the new one, no? But I contacted him. Now you have Facebook, you have Twitter, you have many ways to contact him. No?
Sure.
Now, just in case if you cannot, there's LinkedIn now as
Right,
well.
right. And so did you call him?
Yes.
And you said what?
Basically, I rephrased what you said on the video. In this case, I took it from the video. I called him and said, "Okay, you make a huge impact on my career." For this moment, he didn't say, "I know." At least he didn't say, "Are you drunk?"
Yeah.
But he was aware of all the words I said to him. You know, because it was my second boss, but my first professional boss.
Wow.
So he spent with me, I would say maybe 8 years.
Wow.
As a boss.
How did you feel after you got off the phone with him?
Pardon me?
How did you feel after you got off the phone with him?
Was I would say was relieving, release, no? Because I keep contact with him, no? I treat him as a friend more than a boss. He's way older than me right now. He has almost 70 years old.
Wow.
No? But he did not only teach me professional things. He taught me how to take the life.
Yeah.
I would say no. I wouldn't say, okay, like a father, no, because I have my father.
But like a mentor?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he taught me not everything in life is work. Not everything in life is money. But it's important to be professional what you're doing.
Wow.
And you have to give as much as you can.
Very good. Excellent.
So
Excellent.
it was nice. It was really nice.
All right, somebody else. Who did you call and how did it go? Who else wants to share? Come on.
Sure.
Okay.
Like him, I also am in contact with this person. I even still know her phone number off by heart. She hasn't changed offices. She's still working in the same job. I think she'll be there forever because it's her calling. So we had a nice conversation. Told her that what I was working on. She congratulated Wood Buffalo for having a program like this. She went through something very similar in the city of Red Deer. And she was thankful. She actually said she'd had kind of a rough week, so it was kind of nice to have that little boost of somebody confirming that she's doing a good job. And she works at a college, so a lot of the employees that she goes through are working there while they're going to school, so it's great to see. She likes to be in touch and see how they've become successes because she knows she's molding them for the future. So
Wow. Very good.
it was really cool.
All right, somebody else. Who else wants to share? Yes.
I made two phone calls because the first one is sort of my professional mentor who, because of our dynamics and our relationship, has become a very, very close friend and is godmother of my children. But that was an interesting phone call because she didn't realize how much she had impacted me professionally. She had just assumed it was all personal and friendship related and family related, and not that my career has sort of, and my role and how I act as a teacher has a lot to do with what saw from her, what she modeled, and the way she was in her classroom.
Mm-hmm.
The other call was when it's someone that I grew up with. We did university stuff together. We did university projects together,
Mm-hmm.
and we sort of went our separate ways with families. And I sort of hunted her down like one of those, find the mom, find the dad, find the brother, the sister, and after about 20 phone calls found her, and haven't talked to her in probably 15 years.
Wow.
And it was quite amazing because it was kind of one of those.
How did she react?
She was shocked at first that I'd even found her or had even bothered to try to find her.
Mm-hmm.
We were quite close, and still our families are still close, but her and I personally hadn't had any contact.
Mm-hmm.
But then was very shocked at why I was calling. That it's not just I saw your name on Facebook and I'm calling because I want to find out, gossip about
Whatever.
high school reunion type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling because I want you to know how important you were in who I've become and what I'm doing and what I want to do for our community, and talking about projects we did and how the leadership and the roles we played in those projects is it things that we could translate into what we're doing now, and it was pretty powerful. I think it was powerful for both of us.
Yeah. Anybody? One last one. Anybody else? You called your mentor. You called your leader. Yes. Who was it?
It was actually a wrestler for Canada in 2000 Sydney Olympics.
Okay.
I had the opportunity to train with him for a while back when I was about 12 or 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go through my wrestling coach at the time to find his contact information. But at a young age like that, he was very influential in kind of passing on the idea of working for what you want to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Like hard work really pays off.
Mm-hmm.
So his name is Daniel Gallagher. He's a Nigerian Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
He came from Nigeria to Canada to wrestle. And he trained, wrestled in the Olympics. And he spent his time after that as a motivational speaker.
How did he react to your call?
Quite frankly, he didn't remember who I was at first, but because it was so long ago.
Sure.
But I reassured him about the time we spent together training, and asked him what he was doing now. And he's actually back over in Nigeria again, and he's back in his old village, and he's developing this kind of almost what we have here, but over in Nigeria, because his town's so small. It's a very small farm village, and he was kind of doing the same thing, kind of making everybody aware of the possibilities they have if everybody puts their heads together.
So was it fulfilling for you to track him down?
Yeah, it was actually. It was a little emotional actually, going back to those roots. But it was really nice.
Why did I have you do that? Who can tell me what was the point of the exercise? And for those of you that haven't done it, obviously there's still time to do it, right? There's still time to do it. And already you've heard, like in her situation, reconnecting with past roots, and it was emotional for you. It sounds like it was a fulfilling experience for you. You got to connect with somebody that maybe you still stay connected with, but shared the impact. What's the point of the exercise? What's the point of contacting somebody that made a significant difference in your life? What's the point?
To be like them and influence someone else's life.
Perfect. To be like them and influence somebody else's life. So the idea here is, there's a number of different learning outcomes. One, gratitude, that hopefully in today's narcissistic society, you come to the realization that nobody makes themselves. That's just a misnomer. It's foolish. Even if just as a baby, somebody stuck a bottle in your mouth, nobody has built themselves. So that's number one. And how many of you would agree with me, you're fed up with arrogant leadership? You're fed up with that. So one of the exercises is to if you have a little bit of overconfidence or an extreme case of self-reliance, it forces you to go, oh yeah, there were these people that helped me along the way. Let me acknowledge them. So that's one learning. Second learning is what you just said, that all of a sudden I have the opportunity to be that to somebody else. Because remember remember that was question number 9, but what was question number 10? Who remembers what question number 10 was? Who is your worst boss? And you know, like I said on the film, don't call them. All right, don't call them. Come on in, come on in, come on in. So the point is that you are going to be number 9 or number 10 to somebody. Well, no, I'll be somewhere in between. Well, then you might as well be just 10, right? If you're just going to shoot for being in between, I'm not going to be somebody's best, I'm not going to be somebody's worst. I'll just be inconsequential in their life. Then you might as well be 10. So obviously gratitude, but more importantly, to role model what they gave to you. That lady that you went to school with gave you gifts that you'll never be able to repay. The only way to really repay it is to do what? Go do that to somebody else. That wrestler in Nigeria, who doesn't even remember who you were, till you were like, hey, I'm that guy. Oh, yeah, I remember you. And he might have been going, I have no idea who you are. But yeah, I totally remember you. Well, whatever gave you a gift. And I would suggest you have a moral responsibility to take that. There's an old proverb that talks about taking the seed and the seed produces fruit. And that fruit can be 10, 50, 100 times more, right? So the investment that he made in you, will you take it and make it 10 times more, 50 times more, 100 times more? Or will you take the investment that he made in you and do nothing with it? Because that would really be offensive to the time and energy that he put in. So the purpose of the exercise, if you really thought it through and you really tracked people down, was to stop and reflect on the opportunity you have to change somebody's life. So you can't possibly, in a reasonable mind frame, tell me you don't have an opportunity to change the world. Well, no, Ian, I can't change the world. Well, she changed your world, and he changed your world, and he changed your world, and all of you people that raised your hand had somebody that changed your world. So don't tell me you can't change the world, because we just heard examples of people's worlds that were fundamentally changed because of some kindness and some giving and some caring, because of some teaching and some guidance, because of some mentorship where they talked about more than work. Would you agree with me that everything I just described is at your disposal, yes or no? See, all of a sudden, when I start to walk into a day and say, I'm a world changer. Now, maybe it'll just be one human being, and maybe all I'll do is give a kind word. Now, some of you in the room you don't have the capacity to grab this. And unfortunately, that's why you get frustrated. You think changing the world is some big thing. I got to do some big thing. I got to do like your big let them be kids thing, Ian. Well, the big let them be kids thing starts like this. Let me help this guy. Because that's how that whole thing started. It started with, we got to do one little thing in one little place. And then you do another little thing in another little place. And then you do another little thing in another little place. So for you, if you can't bring changing the world down to the molecular level of one person, then you're never going to change 1 million people. How many say that makes sense? And do an exploration of world changers. Do an exploration of world changers. That's where they started. One person, one person, one person. I'm always amazed by Gandhi, right? Little town after little town after little town after little town. Relationship, relationship, relationship. Gave of himself, asked nothing in return. Gave of himself, asked nothing in return. And then when time came, and he goes like this, show up at the sea. Why? Because he had made deposits. He had made deposits. He had made deposits. And you could look at 100 other people, thousands of people. Terry Fox, what did that guy do? I mean, seriously, what did that guy do? Oh, yeah, he inspired a nation. You know how it started? It started with him, a couple of people, and some guys getting screeched in like, what's that guy doing with one leg? Ah! And then he started. It wasn't till a ways into the journey, y'all, that people started to get excited. Everybody knows that, right? That when it started, there was nobody there. Just one guy with a moral fervor in his heart, and the only thing he had was the purity of his cause, and off he goes. What did Mother Teresa have? She didn't have jack squat. She just had love in her heart and 2 bedrolls and 2 changes of clothes. And yet there was no leader of the free world that would refuse her call. You have capacity and you have ability. And you have an opportunity. And that's why I'm so pleased that you caught that. That the exercise made you reflect and go, holy crap, I do have what it takes to make the world a better place because somebody made my world better. If we're going to be leaders today, if we're going to marshal human capital, it's more than just how do I manipulate a human being to give me some money, or how do I manipulate a human being to volunteer some of their time, or how do I manipulate. It's not that. It's always deeper than that. So write this at the top of your page. It always revolves around why. People give their all to a why. They don't give their all to a how. You look at King. How did King get people to show up? He preached a why. And you look at any great leaders, Giuseppe Manzini, you don't even know who that guy is. He's the guy that unified Italy. You just go on and on and on. In every culture and every community and every society, somebody is able to capture the hearts and minds of people. It's because they're preaching whys and not hows. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. But just to wrap up the last 3 weeks, somebody give me something else that perhaps you took from the last 3 weeks, quickly, because we got to get rolling. So something you took from our first 3 weeks, whether it was the change continuum, the leadership history survey, a thought, an idea. Somebody tell me something you took from the first 3 weeks of our little journey, the first fifth of our little journey. And I don't have a belt tonight, so I'm going to look like an old man hiking up my pants about every 20 minutes. And that's how you know I'm an old man, because I just hiked up my pants in front of 40 people. So that's how you know you're old. Anyways, somebody tell me something that you took from our first 3 weeks. Come on, you got to talk.
The traits of leaders are timeless.
Yeah, they transcend time, don't they? So, but the context, right? What the context we're operating in has changed. And hopefully all of you caught that. We're in a different time. But the timeless traits of leadership, that should be, reassuring to us. Because if I can take those timeless traits and make them part of the 80% of my unconscious behavior, I got a fighting shot. And then I just continue to evaluate the context that I'm operating in to adjust my style. Everybody, does that make sense? I just adjust my style. So 2,000 years ago, the trusted conduit of communication was some guy running with a scroll, and then he handed it to somebody. Today, the trusted conduit of communication is a Twitter post, 140 characters. But the message doesn't change. The message that captures somebody's heart or their head or whatever. All right, somebody else, something that you took. Something that you took.
History survey. I didn't realize how many people actually impacted my life.
Yo. Probably, I'm guessing, both good and bad. That's, you know what, and that should really, that leadership history survey should make us go like this. Holy crap. I can make a significant good or bad difference in somebody's life every day. A flippant remark, a toss of the hair when someone gives a comment in a meeting, a cutting comment, a roll of the eyes. Bam, bam. Or an encouraging word, a hand of help, a voice of reassurance. It's funny, every moment of the day we are planting a seed, guys. We are planting a seed. We are planting a seed, and that will bear fruit. There is no doubt. I saw a young lady that was in the boot camp last time, a high school student that we saw the other night, right, Ross? And she was talking to me about boot camp, and she was talking to me about going through it, and she was talking to me about the difference and the things and the stuff that she was doing now and the initiatives that she has started and the programs that she wants to get going in the schools for kids and others. And I walked away from that going, that girl never said a word. Like, you know, if you would have evaluated her level, I mean, she was always friendly, always kind, but wasn't like a keener, like, ah! But then later you talk to her and her mom, and you're, wow, right? You're like, wow, I didn't realize. Anybody else have that experience with leadership history survey that it made you go, okay, I can make an impact on people, or a lot of people made an impact on me. Anybody have that same experience? Okay, somebody else, something you took away from the first 3 weeks. Somebody else, something you took away, yes?
Leadership skills you have, what the times require.
Yeah. And when, if you don't mind, when you did that self-evaluation, what did you come up with?
Probably
Would you agree with me that place that she came to probably wasn't an easy place to come to? Because it may have been people you admired, you respected, whatever, and then you come to the realization of, wow, maybe that I'm emulating, or maybe even if I'm not emulating, that has been impressed on me, may not be what I need. But does that mean that the approaches that they utilized were wrong or bad? No, it just means it might not be applicable today. Just like I can tell you right now, the skills and the leadership approaches that you're using right now, even if they're excellent, I can almost guarantee you 10 years from now they may not be applicable. Remember, there's a difference between the tried and true timeless tuxedo, right, that'll always be in style, and an approach. So values and principles don't change. They're never changing. But approaches could change. There is a time for an autocratic leadership approach. Talk to that guy back there. He's a fireman. And when he's on a fire, do you think we have time for a meeting to build consensus? Hey, let's build some consensus. How do we all think we should operate here? Do you think there's time for that? Or what this guy does? Do we have time? No, there is time for command and control. But I would suggest to you that other than those crisis times, that building consensus, getting people's buy-in is probably more profitable today. All right, any final comments on the last 3 weeks? Anybody else?
There are leaders who inspire the team to move towards that common direction and vision rather than just do the dictator type styles.
It's not going to work? Guys, you know why it's not going to work? Because people will push back hard. People, and you know how they'll push back? They won't challenge you in the meeting. They won't challenge you in the group. They'll just go like this. Okay, we'll see. Right? How many of you know what I'm talking about? There's just that cross of the arms, that's a shake of the head, and that's the, when I get a chance to take you down, or when I get a chance to stick it to you. Remember this, a person can work 8 hours for you, or they can work 8 hours against you. And it's probably going to be based on their respect level and trust level for you. So what are we doing now? So we had some time of reflection. If you use the exercises and some of the things that we went through in that 3 weeks, then you did do as that young lady did. There was some reflection. There was some reflection. It was meant to do that on different levels. Hopefully you did reflect. So now for the balance of our time, we're going to talk about tangible competencies. So how do we become that leader that the times require? But not just how do we do it conceptually, but actual action, tools. How do I do it? So there will be a combination of a concept and an actual tool. That's the difference between leadership and management, right? There's a lot of talk between, oh, don't be a manager. You got to be a leader. How many of you heard that before? Oh, management. Oh, don't manage people. You got to lead people. You can't manage people. Has anybody heard that? That's silly. It's nonsense because it's both. Leadership is about the things that you're talking about and the things that we talked about last time we're together. Management is about the skills. So if you're all vision, how many of you ever met a leader that's all vision? Big talk, big concepts, but they can't be on time. How many of you know that person? Then you have a person that's always on time but never has a vision, never inspires. How many of you know that person? It's both. Management skills support leadership capacity. A management skill, how to organize yourself. A management skill, effective delegation. A management skill, how to be able to motivate another human being or coach poor performance. These are management skills. How to create a vision, how to articulate a vision, how to gain consensus, how to hold a meeting. These are more leadership skills. I would suggest to you that people that talk like this never manage people. That's foolish talk. It's both. It's a third answer. It's not either or. Does that make sense? All right, so now moving forward, we're going to talk about competencies. Remember, that's a complex set of skills, attributes, attitudes that make up a thing that make you good at a chosen vocation. The vocation that we're talking about is leadership. How do I lead another human being? So, what's that community builder look like? They have the ability to build partnerships and build consensus. They have the ability to inspire and move others towards a shared goal. They can provide a direction when others don't know what to do. They are more about influence that comes from vision and passion and commitment than they are about intimidation or manipulation. They understand that the world is flattened and that that hierarchy is flattened, so they seek feedback and they seek insight. They look for trends so that they can be ahead of the curve. And ultimately, they are authentic, they're genuine, they're direct, and they're honest, and they put the followers' needs ahead of their own. How many of you today are fed up with leaders that put their needs ahead of their followers? How many of you are fed up with that? Absolutely you are. You're looking for a leader that will put your needs ahead of theirs. The fact is, if there was a public leader that we all perceive was doing that, we would rush to that public leader today. Okay, so by now, you should have taken the Leadership History Survey. Tonight, we're going to do a little bit of a survey to figure out where you're at now. So we look back, but where are you at now? So we'll do that in a few minutes. At the beginning of every time we get together from now on, there'll be a little self-survey that'll articulate the competency. So the first competency that we're going to talk about for the next 3 weeks is an agent of change. How do I drop into a situation and change things? So we talked about how do I change my own skills in that change continuum. But now how do I drop into a situation and change something? Agent of change. So the agent of change, the definition. The agent of change understands, demonstrates, and exerts influence, and here's the key, by building trusting relationships to act as a catalyst for change. So how does the agent of change things? What were the key words there? How does the agent of change things? By building trusting relationships. So I would suggest to you, leadership is not about a title anymore. Leadership is not about authority anymore. Leadership is about trusting relationships. Here's what it used to look like. The hierarchy of an organization, community, whatever. It used to look like this, right? So it used to look like this. Leaders were up here, then you had the people in the middle, and then who did you have down here? You had all of us, right? And which way does the poop flow? Downhill. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Then some enlightened people came along and they said this, oh, wait a minute, we have to flip that upside down. How many of you have been to this seminar? We got to flip the pyramid upside down. Because the people that are really important are the people who do the work. And management's job is to support them. Have any of you been to that seminar? Right? So the inverted pyramid style of leadership. We are servant leaders. Oh, that sounds so good. We're servant leaders. But we still have the best parking spot. Why does that happen? I don't know. Because if we're servant leaders, we should walk the farthest. But we still walk the shortest. Anyways. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Yes. Okay. I would suggest to you both of these are passé. Neither one of these apply today. Oh, what do you mean? I don't get it. See, I think it's more like this nowadays. Maybe not hierarchically, if that's even a word, but attitudinally, it's like this. Most of you in the room could give a rip about a title. You don't care about a title. My ability to influence you now has nothing to do with my title or how much money is in my bank. My ability to influence you is based on my ability to occupy space in your life. And that space is usually occupied through trust. The more you trust me, the more space you'll give me. The more space you give me, the more influence I have. How many of you agree with what I just said? Like, think about this. Influence-based purchasing. When you used to go on a trip, you would go to the hotel's website. You would go to the airline's website. And before that, you would call an expert called a travel agent. And you would say, expert, please tell me, where should I go? And they would say, go here and go there. Little did you know they got a kickback every time you went here and there. Am I right or wrong? But now when you go on a trip, what do? You go look at a few stars and a few smiley faces, and if there's enough stars and smiley faces, what do? And are those people putting up the stars and smiley faces experts? Then why do they influence you? What's that? Because they're like you and you what them? Now that's crazy. They're not experts. And for all you know, they're a bunch of they got slobs and you don't know what they look like. Hey, let's go to this place and put up a star. And then you're like, look, stars, let's go. And then you get there and you're like, wow, it's like Neanderthal families here, man. What's going on? Isn't that crazy? Doesn't it make you go, what the hell is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. It's all about trust today. And you don't trust the website of the organization. And you don't trust the website of the travel agent. You only trust the website that you think is organic, authentic, and real. Am I right or wrong? So what does that teach us as leaders? What does it teach us as leaders?
You need to be authentic and real.
We need to build trust. Because the more trust I can build, the more space I'll occupy in your life. And the more space I occupy in your life, the greater likelihood I have to get your time, talent, and treasure in alignment with what I'm trying to do. So now, do I need to have a huge marketing campaign? No. I just got to build a trusting relationship and a trusting relationship. This is incredible. It's so new. Gandhi did it. And then you could go back throughout history of all the leaders that did it and did it and did it and did it. Giuseppe Manzini, the guy I said earlier, and on and on and on. All the way back eons ago, people understood these concepts. And for those of you that aren't from Canada and like me, or from all over the world, you could do the history of your nation or your peoples, and you would see leaders that understood this. Am I right or wrong? You could see leaders that did this. So it's not new, because it's like you said, it's like a tuxedo. It's timeless, baby. Not the ones with the ruffles. Not the ones with the ruffles. So, trust. It's about trust. So the agent of change gets that and realizes today people are less trusting than they've ever been, so I've got to be proactive in building trust with human beings. And we'll talk about that in a moment. So I want you to take this little self-survey. Now, just on a side note, there's something that's duplicate. It says it twice, so don't be like, yeah, and it says it twice. I know it says it twice. I screwed up. Leave me alone. The people in Fort Chipper last night were like, yeah. Everybody give Louie a round of applause. Woo! Louie! Did you come in from your home?
I did, yeah.
See, this is why Louie is awesome. The ball was dropped, and Louie comes in from his house to bring us coffee and water. Another round of applause for Louie. And you know what? Because I'm going to use this as an example. Louie, is this normally your task? No, you're the leader, aren't you? And so what does the leader do? The leader comes in and fixes the problem. And that's leadership. And that's why I like that guy right there. Give him one more round of applause. That's awesome. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I want you to take this self-survey. You read yourself the question. 1, I'm totally not like that. 10, I'm absolutely like that, okay? I'm just going to read them randomly. You just go through them on your own. Ready, set, go. I believe I can make a difference. Now, as you're going down the other ones, don't just walk by that. Do you really believe you can make a difference, or do you just say that? I'm aware that people can learn and communicate in different ways. I can adapt my communication style to meet the needs of others. Just go through them on your own. I'm just reading them randomly. I think of what I want the outcome to be before things begin. I think of the impact of my thoughts and words and actions on others. I can keep an even keel despite the ups and downs of life. I can apply strategies for building trust. Do you intentionally and knowingly how to reach out to people different than you and build trust with them? Keep going. If you're done, just set your pen down and I'll know you're done. I can enable groups and organizations to collaborate and achieve synergy. I apply a diverse and sophisticated set of facilitation model skills and techniques. Okay, once you've done it, just pick up your head and that way I'll know you're done. And no cheating. Don't be looking at other people's surveys. You guys are like, what's going on? Okay. Okay, why do we do, Tim, can you grab a bottle of water and toss it to me, please? Why do we do this little self-survey? Why? Anybody know? Anybody know why we do it?
Self-realization.
Self-realization, but why else? More practical than that, although that's pretty practical. Because in a 3-week time frame, as busy as all of us are, we have a limited time for learning. And because we have a limited time for learning, by doing this little self-survey, you know where to put your time. Does that make sense to everybody? So the purpose of these indicators is to help you guide your learning focus. And it's self-identify. Well, you know what? I got some growth areas. Louis, thank you. See you, buddy. Guys, feel free whenever you'd like, get up some coffee and some water. There's bottled waters back there. Just don't all get up at once. Kind of like a wedding, one table at a time. So it'll help you focus your learning. So the age, and these are indicators, right? So the competency indicators. You rate yourself. So do you know how to build trust? Can you build a trusting relationship? Well, Ian, shouldn't that be easy? How many would agree with me that's not easy? It's not easy to build a trusting relationship, especially since there's so much diversity. Where are you from?
I'm from Pakistan.
From Pakistan. And where are you from?
Fort McMurray.
Fort McMurray. And where are you from?
Well, Venezuela.
Venezuela. And where are you from?
India.
India. So we got India, Pakistan, Venezuela, Fort McMurray. How many of you know the odd one out is Fort McMurray, right? She's probably the most oddity in the room because nobody's from Fort McMurray. We're all from somewhere else. Would you agree with me? 4 different life experiences, yes or no? Would you agree with me that probably a challenge not only in communication, a culture, maybe even religion, creed, and the like? Differences, yes or no? So don't think you're just I can build a trusting relationship with anybody. Probably not. It's a skill that can be worked on and developed. So the agent of change is aware that all of those differences create attitudinal barriers. Even if the attitudinal barrier is just, I don't understand you. Or the attitudinal barrier is, I'm a little afraid of you. Or the attitudinal barrier is, I just want to stay with my own. Or the attitudinal barrier is, what do you want from me? So the agent of change understands that if I want to get something done today, it's about trust. And that the barrier between me and trust is attitudinal. Would you agree with me that the attitudinal barrier is the toughest to break? Yes or no? The attitudinal barrier, right? Fear is a tough barrier to get through. Or anger is a tough barrier to get through. Attitudinal barrier. Even indifference is a tough barrier to get through. So, and the only way to get through those barriers, in my opinion, is to build trust. So then how do we build trust? I want to take a few minutes to walk through the key ingredients of trust today. Remembering that there was a time when I only hung around people that look like me, smell like me, talk like me, worship the way I worship, eat what I eat, go where I go. There was a time when I only hung around people like that, which meant building trust was a lot easier. Now, all of a sudden, I got to hang out with people that don't look like me, don't talk like me, don't eat what I eat, don't go where I go, and don't listen to what the music I listen to, which makes building trust a lot harder. So how do I drop in any environment and build trusting relationships with anybody? That's what we're going to walk through right now. Number 1, you must be vocationally competent. What does that mean? Vocational competency. You want to be vocationally competent. What does that mean? Yes, sir.
Able to prove that you're good at what you do.
That whatever it is you've been chosen to do in the group, you do it good. That you can handle your business. See, I might not like Raphael, but when I have to work with him and he delivers the goods routinely, and I'm never having to wait on him, I'm never having to remind him, I'm never having to figure out what he's doing, because he's always delivering, you might not go have a beer, you might not invite him over to the house, you might not do the barbecue, but how many of you agree with me? You want him around when there's work to be done, yes or no? Absolutely. Come on in, guys. How are you? How are you? So, vocationally competent. But here's a challenge for leaders. Would you agree with me, at some point as you elevate as a leader, there will come a point in time when the people who you're leading will know more than you about the job, yes or no? So you can't rely completely on knowing more than your people. When I had 48 direct reports and 1,100 employees, every one of those 48 people knew their job better than I would have ever known the job. They were accomplished chefs. They cooked all over the world. They were phenomenal maitre d's. They were incredible whatevers. I mean, they were phenomenal at what they did. They were all award-winning. And all of them were better at the task than I was. But then how were you vocationally competent? I might have not been vocationally competent, but there was some value I was able to bring to each one of them. So if you find yourself in a position where people know the task more than you and better than you, what do? One, you admit it. Don't try to, how many of you ever had a boss that tried to fool everybody into thinking that they knew the job better? And you totally disrespected them, didn't you? Immediately. You're like, dude, we know you don't know this. Why are you faking? So just step up and say, I don't know this as well as you, but there are some things of value I'll bring, and they will be blank, blank, and blank. So what is that value you can bring? Well, maybe the value you bring is you're good at working with other departments and kind of figuring out systems. Maybe you're really, really good at listening and problem solving with them. Maybe the value you bring is that you're really organized and you clean the place up. As long as I bring value to the followers, as long as I bring value to the people that I'm charged with leading, of some kind, shape, or form, how many would agree with me, those people are going to start to trust me. So one, be vocationally competent. If I can't be vocationally competent, intentionally bring some other kind of value. Secondly, open communication. Now, for that, I've got to unpack communication a little bit. Not tonight, but when we talk about systems, I will give you, I'll put up on the learning portal a 35-minute video on personal communication. We won't do it in class, but a 35-minute video on personal communication, where Aristotle and I know it's pretty amazing, Aristotle and I come up with a communication model, because he had some good ideas, but I added to him, and he and I had a little chat. Hey, Aristotle, what's up? Ari, woo, what's up, man? Anyway, so I'll put that up. But for tonight, open communication. Do you have the ability to connect? In the past, the expectation was that the followers would bend their communication style to the leader. But we're in a user-driven society now, and the followers expect the leader to do what? Bend. Or they'll just tune them out. Can you close that door back there, please? Just pop out the thing. So if you want to connect with people, then you better understand these 4 communication styles. First, filter of communication, fact-based communicators. The fact-based communicator. The fact-based communicator is the individual that thinks linearly. They talk in numbers. They talk sequentially. They have a hard time when you start talking like this. They can't follow you. They want it laid out like this, like this, like this. How many of you know somebody like that? Okay? Then there's the emotion-based communicator. The emotion-based communicator. Now here's the drill with them. However they feel this second is what you get. How many of you have a wife like, how many of you know somebody like that? Edit that out. Anyways, how many of you know somebody like that? Now watch, I'm going to stop the bus for a second. The fact-based communicator and the emotion-based communicator are sitting in a meeting. And it's a contentious dialogue of some kind. How many of you know this is a train wreck? They will not connect. Because they'll be talking about la 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 and sequence, 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 fact, 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 actual, 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 actual. And they seemingly can't find a point of connection. Have you sat and watched that meeting unfold? And if it's 2 people that you don't like, you've been like, right? Okay, belief-based communicator. The belief, whatever, I don't know, belief. You get it. Belief, no spell check on the whiteboard. Anyways, how many of you have ever been typing into your iPhone and you pop it off and then somebody replies and you go back and read what was sent and autocorrect like changed everything? There's a lady that I know that at the bottom now, instead of her signature, she has her name, and then underneath her name, instead of putting like Bell or whatever, tell us, it says, please excuse any errors. I have fat thumbs. Isn't that great? I think it's brilliant. Please excuse any errors, I have fat thumbs. I thought that was really good. Belief-based communicator, what's that sound like? Well, that looks like this. Have you ever been talking to somebody, shown them all the facts, given them all the information, made an incredible case, and then they looked at you and said, that's great. Now, what I believe is, have you had that conversation? That's the belief-based communicator. They're working off of a set of beliefs that they have about life. Then finally, the values-based communicator. The values-based communicator. Now, I don't mean religion and I don't mean morals. What I mean is this, that all of us through our life experience have a certain set of values that have been developed. Even the mafia has a set of values. And if you know what they are, you at least have an opportunity to communicate. Now, they may be skewed, they may be twisted, but there's a unique set of values. The values-based communicator. Here's the tough part for all of us in the room. The first thing I have to ask myself is, what kind of a communicator am I? And then just like this young lady did, I've got to say, is it serving me well? If I'm a fact-based communicator, is that serving me well? From now on, as you go to communicate with other human beings, I want you to start thinking, what kind of a communicator am I? What kind of communicator are they? What kind of communicator am I? What kind of communicator are they? And then change your style. To meet who? To meet them. Immediately, you'll start to develop more trusting relationships. Because people aren't ready for that. The fact-based communicator is going to expect you to communicate in your old style, and you're going to start communicating in facts. And you watch, you'll start swaying bosses. Bosses, because you've met their communication style. The emotion-based communicator, you're going to start saying this to you. How do I think they're feeling right now? Is now a good time? Is now a good place? You're going to start being more strategic in your communication. Well, Ian, that's kind of manipulative. Is it, or is it just being kind? If I know her communication style is a certain way, am I going to dig my heels in the ground and say, to hell with that? I'm going to communicate my way. How many of you know somebody like that? Instead, I'm going to say, you know what? In an attempt to better understand her and her me, I'll change. I'll bend. Would you rather follow a person like that, yes or no? Yeah, you would. Now, did I say change your principles and values? No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I just said adjust your style in a hope that I'll connect. Now, how are we going to practice this? Assignment number 1 for the next 7 days. Get ready. Assignment number 1 for the next 7 days, you're going to listen to people like they're going to die at midnight. What? Huh? I think the skill that is the most lacking in our society is the capacity to listen. We don't listen. How many of you agree we don't listen? But we want to push information out. We want to push information out on our blog. We want to push information out on our Facebook page. We want to push information out on our Twitter account. We want to push information out, and we think that everybody really cares if I had white or brown toast today. If you put that on your Facebook page, I will unfriend you, just so you know. Because I don't care. So, I'm going to listen like this person is going to be gone at the end of the night. Now, God forbid, but he's leaving the planet. If he was leaving the planet, would I look at my iPhone when he's talking to me? If he was going to die in 12 hours, would I be like, yeah, great, what was that? No, I'd be like this.
Can you please stop looking at
I got you. Here's my point. From now on, for the next 7 days, any human being that's talking to you, you will give them your undivided focus and your full attention, your whole body, your whole soul, your whole heart. Have you ever met somebody that when they talked to you, they made you feel like you were the only person in the room? Have you ever met somebody like that? Two ladies were like my husband. Look, you are making it too hard for us guys, okay? Chill out with that. That is crazy talk. We're allowed to look off in the distance and look over at the game and be like, yes, well.
It's not me only, it's 3 billion husbands on the
So my point is this. I'm going to give somebody my undivided focus. No phone, no email, no nothing, no next meeting, undivided. And here's where you're going to start. At your house. With your spouse and with your kids. Sad story, if you would please. Some of you, if you're being honest, can relate to what I'm about to say. So I'm sitting in the office at the house, typing emails in the evening, catching up. Little Nadia, now 9, just recently turned 9, walks in. She starts telling me the story from the day. I have become very skilled at typing and appropriately inserting the that's great. Well done. Good girl. Right? I've gotten very good. And never missing a beat. All right. Yes. There's only one problem. Nadia gets it now. So here's Nadia. La 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 la, Dad, and then I and la 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 la. And she walked out. And it was a second. It took me a second. Where did Nadia go? Crap. Nadia figured it out. Nadia knew I was ignoring her and not listening to a word I was saying and was unauthentically responding. I jumped out of the chair and I ran down the hallway. Nadia! Nadia! And she turned and she looked at me and she just said, you don't care. And she walked down the steps. And I said to myself, that's why she's going to reach out to another man who doesn't care about her and let him be whatever she wants or whatever he wants to her. That's why she's going to reach out to the drug dealer. That's why she's going to reach out and go get drunk on a Friday night because her dad didn't show her love. I mean, that all flashed in my head, like in about a half a second, just shh. I had this vision of her with every part of her body pierced and tattoos everywhere, throwing plates at me when she was 18. You know, where were you? Where were you? And you know what happened? It was like this, Gina! Family meeting right now! Listen, what's the most validating thing you can do to a human being? Understand them. If you felt like I truly understood you in depth, would that validate you as a human being? Absolutely. As soon as a human being looks and goes, you understand me, I just built trust. What's the number one way to do that? Listen. I can't understand you to your satisfaction if I'm always talking. The only way I can do it is listen. So step number one, fact-based, emotion-based, belief-based, value-based. How am I going to figure out that about a person? I'm going to listen and better understand their communication style. Okay, now that's an intangible exercise. Let me give you a tangible exercise for the next 7 days. I want you to send out a survey. Oh, this is a boot camp. Survey. I want you to take and send out a survey to your peers, or if you supervise people, to your employees or whatever. If you don't supervise anybody, then it's your peers. If you do supervise people, then you're sending it out to your direct reports. That survey is going to have 3 questions. Question number 1, what am I doing right? Question number 2, what am I doing wrong? Suggestions for my improvement. Question number 3, if you could send me back to school, what class would you make me take? Those questions are right on the handout. Now, here's the keys to that. They turn it in anonymously. So you put it on a Microsoft Word, 3 questions, take it, hand it out, tell them to slide it under your door, tell them to put it in your box, tell them to fold it up, throw it to you as a paper airplane, I don't care, but it has to be anonymous. Do not send it out in an email. Yeah, just reply to all. Don't do that. Okay, don't do reply to all. Okay, now, response. Someone tell me why I'm asking you to do this. What's the learning that I'm hoping you'll gain? And what's the point of the exercise? What's the learning, but what's the point? Because there's 2 different things. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. Why else?
How to improve and what are the weak points?
How to improve in the weak point, but take it a step further. You guys are good. You guys are right. But I want you to go one deeper.
Are you actually communicating to people the way you think you are?
Excellent, deeper. Excellent, deeper. You're building trust. See, because when I send these 3 gentlemen a survey, when I tell them to turn it in anonymously, when I read their feedback, and then over the next 90 days, they actually see me working on the thing that they said I needed to get better at, will they trust me more or less? More or less? More. Will they respect me more or less? So I can't wait for opportunities to build trust. I must proactively create the opportunity to build trust. Does that make sense? Now, what's the risk? What's the risk and reward? The reward is I build trust. What's the risk? What's that? That's right. The risk is I might not like the answers. But if I'm enlightened, I grow. Somebody back there said, I'll grow because I'll gain information and I can see. How many of you say this is a scary thing to do? Okay, and here, not that I'm not empathetic, but listen, do you want to lead or not? Leaders do things other people would look at and say, I'd never do that. See, as soon as I can get somebody to say, I'd never do that, in a good way, I can lead them. because they're looking to me as a example. They're looking to me as someone that would do things that they wouldn't. And as soon as I get a human being to look and go, I don't think I can do that, I got a chance to lead them. And I don't have to have a title because I just gained their respect. So sometimes you got to hang out there. Is there anything that can go bad with this? What are the other risks? Well, if you don't do it, in other words, you hand it out, you read it, and then you don't change, you might as well not hand it out, right? You're going to take 5 steps back. You could be crushed by the information. And I'll give you some tips after you've done it of how to kind of understand it better, what it could mean. Because every little thing somebody says, that's not what we're looking for. What are we looking for? Trends, right? If you get 5 surveys back that says the class that you need to take is the listening class, you got a listening problem. Or if you get 7 surveys back that say you got an anger issue, what do you got? An anger issue. So don't be like this, I can't believe they said that! Right? I mean, that doesn't work. What's my point? You want to build a trusting relationship? Expose yourself. Leaders today are willing to get the feedback because feedback is breakfast of champions. So you got 2 exercises, open communication. Actually 3. First, evaluate your listening. Listen like they're going to die at midnight. And then proactively build trust by sending out the survey. The first 7 days, listen like they're going to die at midnight. The next 7 days, send out that survey. Now here's the funny thing. If any of you are really clicking in, you see the sequence. I told you the first 3 weeks, you're going to have to pick out one thing. Remember me telling you that? And now I've given you an exercise that could help you identify what? What the one thing should be. And who is that now going to be based on? Others. So you're going to pick out one thing that would have the maximum impact on others. Remember when I made you write down the 3 names of people whose lives would be better? Maybe you should send them the survey. How many say that probably makes sense? Leaders are willing to expose themselves. Leaders are willing to remake themselves. Leaders are willing to lead themselves first. Would you agree with me this is an exercise of personal leadership, yes or no? It is. It's an exercise of personal, because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. All right, let's move on. So, how do I build trust? I clarify outcomes, not tonight, but when we come to the planning piece of this, when we talk about the engagement approach to planning, we'll talk about an outcome-based, impact-focused approach that from now on in life, you're going to be outcome-based. In other words, if Fatima calls me and says, can we have a meeting, Ian? Here's what I'm going to say to her. What's your outcome? What's the point? So like when Ross calls and says, RMWB wants to do blah, 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 blah. What do I always say? What's the outcome? What do we hope to achieve? And why is that? Because I only have 168 hours in a week. It's a finite commodity, 168 hours. Can I waste it on something? No. So I need to know what the outcome is before we begin. Now, we'll talk more about this when we talk about time management and when we talk about planning. But just know this. You will trust me if you think I know where I'm going. If you don't think I know where I'm going, you ain't following me. How many of you would agree? If I don't think you have a clue of where you're going, I might come to work because I need to pay my mortgage, but I'm not giving you my allegiance. But if I get a sense that you really have a direction, I'm willing to get in on that. How many of you would agree with that statement? So outcome-based. Now, the skills of being outcome-based we will learn later, but get it on your radar screen. High emotional IQ. So I will trust a person that's fairly even keel. But if I'm dealing with a roller coaster of emotions regularly, I start to pull back trust. There used to be a time where I could explode, come back to work the next day, and apologize to all of you. And you'd be like, oh, okay, no problems. But how many of you know those days are gone? I'm not up for that anymore. I'm okay with the boss being a jerk as long as they are consistently a jerk. As long as I know what to expect, how many of you agree? If a boss is a jerk, I'm cool. As long as they're consistently a jerk to everybody and they're a jerk all the time. Because then I can plan. But this, I can't handle anymore. So what's a high emotional IQ? Here's the simplicity of it for me. The simplicity of it is this. That when my emotions start to get the best of me, that I have the ability to disengage the clutch. and I think to myself, what is the best thing for me to say or do that will take me closer to my outcome? Not what do I want to say or do. What is the thing that if I said it or did it right now would take me closer, not further away? That's a high emotional IQ. That means you can disengage from the moment and the emotion of the moment. That's usually important in contentious conversations, but it's also important in negotiation. Can I negotiate, or am I going to get caught up in the emotion? Boxers talk about it all the time. Boxers say you can never get mad. Don't get mad. Because as soon as you get mad, what do? You lose control. Sterling Moss was one of the greatest Formula One race car drivers in the history of mankind. And he used to say this: people die on the road not because they don't know how to drive, but because they let go of the wheel. They get in a panic mode and let go of the wheel. If they just hung on to the wheel, they probably would have made it. But they let go of the wheel. How many of you have let go of the wheel of life in crisis before? I have. I don't know what to do. If I would have just held on, figuratively speaking, to the wheel, I probably could have navigated the thing. A high emotional IQ doesn't let go of the wheel. A high emotional IQ thinks to themselves, I know I'm pissed right now, and I would like to rip their throat out. But what would be the words I could use or the actions that I could take that would get me closer to what I want to achieve? That takes practice. Would you agree with me? It takes practice. I'll send you a little survey. I'll send you in the next couple weeks. I'll send you a little high emotional IQ survey that you can take. That'll give you a little bit more insight. And then finally, you got to be relatable and likable. Relatable and likable. Anybody ever heard of Jennifer Aniston? Who's Jennifer Aniston? Who is she? Actress, right? Actress. Is she Rachel? Very good. Is she a world-class Academy Award-winning actress? Yes or no? No, she's never won an Academy Award, right? She doesn't get Academy Award nominations. But how come she always has a lot of people go to her movies? Because she's likable and relatable. And you ever see her on one of those talk shows, you're like, oh, she's so sweet. Now, whether she's sweet or not, I have no idea. She's probably, you know what, but I don't know. I just know this. When I'm watching her, I'm like, she would be so fun to hang out with. What a great gal. Relatability. Can you relate to another human being? Now, the tough part is, I don't have his background. I don't have his frame of reference. I don't have his worldview, perhaps. So how do I find a place to relate? Listen. The funny thing about listening is, I start to listen. I start to realize, maybe we have some things in common. Some of you will be put off by what I'm about to say. I'm a huge opponent of diversity. What? You're brown. How can you be against diversity? I'm the only brown redneck you ever met in your life. That's why. No, it's because I don't believe in diversity. Because if you extrapolate this whole diversity talk out to its logical end, you know what we come to realize? That we're different. Well, what revelation is that? Instead, I'm a big believer in commonality. Let's not talk about what we have different. Let's talk about what we have in common. And let's base our whole conversation on what we have in common, because eventually, if you extrapolate that out to its logical end, I'll come to appreciate what we have different. But let's start with commonality first. How many of you want a safe place for your kids? Okay, we have that in common. Came from different places, came from different backgrounds, different religions, but none of us wants our kid to be unsafe. How many of you want to be able to walk down a street and not step over 7 homeless guys? Well, we come from different places, but at least we have that in common. We're Green Party, we're PC, we're Wild Rose, we're all over. But you know what? None of us want to walk over homeless guys. Now, we might have different strategies of how to attack that problem. That's true. But we have something in common. So, it's not that I'm against the whole concept of celebrating diversity. I would just get there in a different way. I would focus on commonality, relatability. And then finally, if you hate what you do, no one's going to follow you. If you're grumpy about life, no one's going to follow you. So if you need to adjust your attitude and be okay with things, then people might follow you. But no one's going to follow the person that's grumpy about life. How many say this all makes sense? All right, now we got 2 things to do. We got a half hour, and we got 2 things to do. We're going to take a little exercise now. So we've talked about some concepts of trust. This exercise that we're going to do right now, I'm going to post it, a video about it, so that you can go do this exercise with other people. You could do it in your workplace. You could do it. It was the second handout. Remember, there was 2 handouts. How many printed both handouts? Good job. You guys are awesome. No? Wrestler band? What's wrong?
Was there a second email that went out?
No, it was in the same email. How many? It was in the same email, wasn't it? Yeah. 1, 2. Okay, dude, take it. I think I remembered off the top of my head. Okay, here's the drill. The differences that we all have cause problems. Misunderstanding, miscommunication, differences cause problems. And yet we know the more different we have in the group, the better off we are. So how do we mitigate the risk? We've got to understand each other. So here's an exercise to better understand from a communication standpoint. And this is an exercise to better understand how you operate and how I operate. Now, I helped write this, so I think it off the top. I think I know it off the top of my head. If leadership is the art of getting people to do stuff, I'm paraphrasing now. Get people to pull on the same rope at the same time. If it's the art of giving direction to energy and focus of others, then all of us can be leaders, and leadership needs to happen at all levels. And especially from a community standpoint, we want to have a lot of different people because all of those different perspectives help us be better. But differences inherently cause problems, misunderstanding, and distrust. How do we reduce that? As I better understand you and you better understand me, there's a greater likelihood of alignment. Let me show you a visual. Here is Fort McMurray, region of Wood Buffalo, the community. But that's the stated mission. Thriving community we want to be, right? Thriving community we want to be. But within that, this is probably happening. How many agree with me? Many communities are like that right there. Yes or no? And that is very uncomfortable. How many have ever worked in that place? Right? You've worked there. So what we are looking to achieve is alignment. How do we gain alignment? That every arrow knows the goal. Every arrow knows their role. Every arrow knows what winning is. The closer we can get to this, the less money you spend, the less energy you exert, the less time you have to put in to get things done. Does that make sense, yes or no? The concept of alignment. Have any of you ever had your back out of alignment? How's it feel? Not good. Life is the same. I got to get alignment. This is marshaling that human capital. The theory here is if I understand you a little bit better, you understand me a little bit better, your style, my style, if I get a better understanding of it, we're more likely to get in alignment. The more alignment we have, the less energy we use. The more alignment we have, the less money it costs. The more alignment we have, the more we get done. I've got to seek alignment of time, talent, and treasure if I want to get things done. So this exercise, I don't want you to just do it for you. I want you to go home and do it with your family. I want you to go do it with your coworkers. I want you to go do it with the minor hockey guys you hang out with, or what the girl guides, or whatever part of a group you're part of. Do this exercise. But I won't remember it. That's why I'll put up the video explanation. You might not need the video explanation, but you can just sit down with your group and say, we're going to do this exercise. Here's the handouts, because you'll print them off the portal, right? Here's the handouts, and here you go. Let's watch this video. And then you'll do the exercise. Makes sense? All right, let's do the exercise now. I got to grab one. Hand me that one right there. Here's what we're going to do, and it's going to be quick. We're not going to take a lot of time. You have 8 columns. Columns. Do you see the 8 columns? Columns. You're going to go through those columns. You're going to read the words: adaptable, adventurous, carefree, charismatic. If the word resonates with you, check it. If it doesn't resonate with you, move on. Don't think about this a lot. Look at the word. It's used, check mark. It's not you, move on. When you get to the bottom of the column, put the total. That's important. Don't go back and count. Check marks, total. Check marks, total. Check marks, total. Do it 8 times. Okay? Any questions? Ready, set, go. If you're watching right now at home, put this on pause. Seriously, put this on pause. Are you listening to me? I said, no. Yes.
You don't have extra sheets, do you?
No. I had one extra sheet. I apologize. Did you have your handouts from tonight?
No.
Okay, my bad. Does your brother? Okay, so you know what? I'll make sure I bring extra ones. And you guys, if you ever do that, if you can't print them, just send me an email, and then I'll make sure I bring extras. Okay, go. So guys, go to the website tonight, and it'll be on there. Oh, you already have them. You just couldn't print them. Was that the drill? Okay. Will you do me a favor, Ross? Yeah. Will you go down? There's an office. There's a learning. There is an adult learning office. And what did I do with that?
Over by the library?
Right before you get to the library. What did I do with that? Right. Is that USB back there? Is that 32 gig USB back there? Back there.
Yes.
Can you give that to Ross, please? Or maybe it's on this 8 one. Maybe it's on this one. Never mind. Here. I think it's on this one. It says leadership style. LBC leadership style. And print. Can you ask them to print off like 2 or 3?
Anybody else need one? Okay. 4.
4.
We have to.
That's 4 fines, man.
5?
5?
Okay.
You got okay. So we need 4, and I got $2, $2, 2. It's all the same family. $2, $2, $2, and then you. I got $8. And what's the charity tonight?
Busted Printer Fund.
What's the charity tonight? The Busted Printer Fund. What's the charity? Somebody throw me out a charity. SPCA. Okay, so the charity tonight is SPCA. We got $8. I'll throw in 20. We're at $28. If you don't have your toonie tonight, you can. I'll front you, and you got to bring me to me next week. Go through the columns. Read the word. It resonates with you, check mark. It doesn't resonate with you, no check mark. That's what I like, a lady who pays up. That's pretty awesome, man. It's awesome. Very good. No, not money. They're paying a fine. 20 for SPCA? That's awesome. Okay, very good. Are you paying for your brothers? Oh, you're just making a big donation. Okay.
I'm paying for the lovely lady.
You're paying for the lovely lady? Okay, you're going to hold on to all the money.
I'm the banker.
You're the bank, yep.
Okay.
We're gathering money for the SPCA. Come on, you got to be quick. Don't think about it too long. Just check mark, check mark, check mark. And if you're following along at home, do the exercise. Right now, you should have printed it out. You're just going through and check marking, and I'll explain what to do in just a second, okay? Check mark, check mark, check mark. For all of you in your jammas right now on Sunday, and I don't know if you know that we can see you. It's kind of a two-way thing. They covered up their robe real fast. When you get to the 8th column, just kind of look up at me, and that way I'll give you the next instructions. Look at the word, if it resonates with you. Okay, so you're done, my man? So now you're going to take those columns and bring them over, right? So column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So column 1, column 8, column 2, column 7, column 3, column 6, and so on. And put your totals down there, okay? No?
We can't do it. The fellow's printer is broken.
Huh. Must be a pandemic of broken printers.
Yes, and the other offices aren't open.
Okay. Okay, come on, go through. Go through, go through, go through. Now, when you get done, you're going to bring them over to the next page. There's a table. Can I borrow yours really quick? So there's a table right up here at the top. So 1 and 8, 2 and 7, 3 and 6, 4 and 5 to give you totals. So 1, 2, 3, 4, but look, then it reverses. 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1 and 8, 2 and 7, 3 and 6, 4 and 5 to bring you totals here. Totals, okay? Total them up, my friend. Total them up. Sorry. Now, once you, can I borrow yours, sir? Can I borrow yours? Now, once you have the totals, once you've totaled them up and you've brought the totals to the top table, you should have totals. And then you bring the total of column A, the total of column B, the total of column C, the total of column D. And you will rank them. Like, if you don't, can I share? Yeah, sure. So his highest was organizer, so he'll put a 1 there. His second highest was researcher. He'll put a 2 there. His third highest was energizer. He'll put a 3 there. And then his final was nurturer. He'll put a 4 there. And then he'll write his dominant styles, which would be organizer, researcher. So he'd write organizer, researcher. And then his recessive would be energizer, nurturer. He'd write those there. Okay? Go for it. Remember, this is not a mathematical equation. There's no right or wrong answers. Okay, perfect. Huh? If you, now, on a tie, if there's only been one person in the history of this test that every single one of them, they were tied. When Gandhi took the test, when I gave it to him that day, he, no, I'm just kidding. That's not true. That's a joke. When Einstein, no, I'm just kidding. So you're just going to put your totals in and then write them right there. Which way are you tied? So put those 2 down there and put those 2 up there. So 1 and 2 go in your dominant, and your tie for 3 goes down there. Okay. Got it? So your 2 highest scores, write the word in dominant. Your 2 lowest ones, write the word in recessive. You got it? We're good over here? We got it? Good? We're good? Okay. So this is 1. Okay. Put a 1 there. Okay. 2, 3, 4. So 1 and 2 go there. 3 and 4 go there. So energizer, researcher would go there. I'm sorry. Organizer, researcher would go there. Energizer, nurturer would go there. Yep.
Okay, so I put nurturer there, and then if I'm tied with...
I would put the 3 of those there, and then that one there.
Okay.
Okay?
When I was reading it, I was like, okay, this is...
Yes? Oh, you're awesome. Okay, we'll put that with the bank. We'll put that, hold on one second. Where's the bank? Over here? All right, SPCA is rocking.
I guess I put your lowest.
Dominance down.
Is, so you'd take 1 and 1. So the 2 that are tied for 18 would go in there. You'd write the energizer. No, write energizer.
Oh, energizer.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right, and then you'd put organizer, research. Yes.
So I need to improve on
Well,
organizer, research.
or
Where did you get this from?
These are 2 of the highest, isn't that 1?
Yeah.
2 and yeah.
that's right. So here
So
you'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. Now write 1 and 2 in there. So organizer, nurturer.
same as
Isn't it funny? I always get that.
What do I do now?
Okay, so 1 and 2, organizer, nurturer, go there. Researcher, organizer, I'm sorry. Organizer, nurturer, go here. Energizer, researcher, go there. How we doing? Good? Good?
That's for you to read.
Is this from you?
No, it's from a friend of mine. The hub, you know, the hub.
Yes. Thank you very much. Oh. Thank you very much. Very good. Okay, we got to move on. Here we go. And I need somebody's handout. So let me borrow yours. Your last 2 pages there. No, not that one. Yeah, these 2. There we go. Actually, I just need this one. Okay, heads up, listen up. Let's talk about what this can mean. Now, you should have finished. The finish is you should have 4 words. Energizer, nurturer, organizer, researcher, in some format, dominant, recessive, right? Dominant, recessive. Is this an exact science, yes or no? Yes. Yes. And so is the Ouija board that I use at my house. But anyways, right? So, no, it is not an exact science. All it is meant to do is give us some insight, but you know what'll be funny? You'll be amazed how accurate this thing is. The point of it, though, the point of the exercise is I better understand him, he better understands me. We bend to the middle a little bit to try to seek what? alignment. We're trying to seek alignment, or as close as we can to alignment. All right, who was an energizer in their dominant? That one of your dominant styles were energizer, raise your hand. Okay, a couple energizers in the room. This nice lady is raising her hand like this. Well, I'm not sure. First, tell me what you're going to say about the energizer, and I'll let you know if I am or not. Okay. Energizers are charismatic, buoyant, energetic, enjoy living life. No. Listen now. They are open to new ideas. Energizers work, now here's the key. Energizers work best with clear, short-term, tangible outcomes. How many of you energizers would say that's when you're best off? Raise your hand if you agree with that. Okay. Strengths, enthusiastic, youthful, honest, sincere. They make excellent salespeople, teachers, actors, public speakers, and leaders. They're all like, yeah. They're unreliable, flighty, immature, hyperactive, intolerant of authority or rules. All of a sudden they're like, yeah. All right, moving on. How many of you, one of your dominant styles was organizer? Oh my God. Wow. Man. Okay, now listen, really, really important. We think that it means that they are highly organized, but listen. Typically are dynamos, action-oriented, strong-willed people, always seem to get a lot accomplished in a short period of time. They have endless ideas, plans, and ambitions. They make excellent generals, executives, idea people. They are renowned dictators and famous criminals. Listen now, listen to this. Are attentive to detail, enjoy routine, systems, tangible rewards, and recognition. If I have an organizer working for me, I know I've got to do some recognition. I know I've got to be able to recognize their capacity. But watch this. They are rigid, enslaved to rules, black and white. Now, you've got the energizer. Let's do this, let's do that, come on, let's get out. We got to make something happen right now. Come on, go! Organizer, whoa, dude, we need some rules. We need some policy. We need some procedures. Why are you always slowing everything down? Why are you totally out of control? Am I right or wrong? What if they said this? You know what? Your enthusiasm for pushing the envelope is going to make us better. And you know what? You're going to make sure we don't fail because you're going to have the structure in place to ensure we make it. Right or wrong? Do you need both? But it makes it a lot easier when I say, oh yeah, you're a so-and-so. That's why you want to do it this way. And if we combine, we'll probably do something great because we need both of those. So there's a dynamic tension. If it pulls too much energizer, are we going to get in trouble, yes or no? Yes. If it pulls too much organizer, are we going to stop creativity, innovation? Maybe not stop it, but we might slow it down. There's a dynamic tension for a reasonable center. But I must appreciate that about another human being. All right, moving on. Researchers. Raise your hand if you're a researcher in your dominant. A lot of research. A lot of organizing researchers. Very good. Conceptual, independent. They seek knowledge and understanding and like to solve problems and deal with it. And innovative, which is innovative by exploring ideas and developing models. In relationships, their heads often rule their hearts. As friends, they are loyal. When meeting people, however, they have a tendency to wait to be introduced rather than making the first approach. They enjoy complicated puzzles. Many of the world's greatest geniuses, painters, scientists, and musicians are researchers. They're analytical, produce quality work. They are independent. They can be aloof, intolerant of incompetency, dislike unfairness, condemn injustices. Nurturers. They are generally happy, calm. Nurturers have a high tolerance for almost everything and seldom explode. Nurturers may look placid, however, they feel a lot more than they show the world, right? Still waters run deep on these nurturers. Here's another one. They generally ask why questions and really do want answers. The nurturer. Honest, sincere, trusting, helpful, can be impractical and dreamy, gullible, self-deprecating, and fanatical. None of these are right or wrong or good or bad. And there's a ton of exercises like this. The reason I like this one is it's quick. And it gets to the point and we can have a fun dialogue. Do this. Do this with your family. Sit down with your family and do it. Or do this with coworkers, or if you're on a volunteer board or a group, sit down and do this and explain to them why. We're trying to gain some alignment so that through alignment we can get things done faster, more enjoyably, and we can be more effective. Now, the challenge with something like this is what you do with it. The exercise isn't enough, is it? It's now when I sit in a meeting going, oh yeah, she's an organizer. That means she's probably going to take the perspective that we need a framework in place before we move on. Oh yeah, they're an energizer. They're going to want a quick hit. They're going to want to get something done right now. If you were managing or supervising an energizer, what would you make sure was a part of your strategy? What would you make sure was a part of your strategy, and what would you avoid?
Engaging dialogue.
Engaging dialogue. What else? Would you put them on a 3-year project? Heck no. Not only no, heck no. Because you know at about month 4, what are they going to be like? Ugh. So, short term. If you put them on a 3-year project, it's going to have quarterly recognition. See, remember when we talked about, in Ignite the Fire, we talked about, do you have the understanding of how to put yourself in the right place to succeed? Remember we talked about that in the Leadership History Survey? Do you know what environment you thrive in and what environment you fail? Like for me, don't put me on something that's 3 and 4 years long. It's not going to go well. I needed to be on something that has a short-term focused goal. Here's the objective, knock it out, move on to the next thing, knock it out, move on to the next thing, knock it out. That's why I did well in athletics. There was a season. It started, it ended. I knew right away either we succeeded or we failed. Then we moved on to the next game, succeeded or failed. Then the season was over. We either won or we lost. Then we started a new season. I'm good with that. But if it's never ending, I will jump off a building. I'll be like, because I can't handle it. Anybody can relate to what I'm talking about? But others of you, you don't like this. You want it to be more methodical. You want it to be spread out. I don't know, because neither one is right or wrong. It's just, can you adjust to meet the needs of your followers? If you can, you'll be more successful as a leader today. What's the first step? Analyzing yourself. What's the next step? Analyzing those around you. I've given you 2 tools tonight to be a trusting community builder. People's communication style, listening effectively to build trust. I'm going to do that by understanding how you communicate and bending, and understanding your style and bending. Would you be more likely to follow that leader, yes or no? You would. You'd be more likely to. Now, is leadership about being brilliant? No. Is leadership about being charismatic? No. Leadership is about understanding a human being and being willing to bend your style to theirs so I can marshal human capital. I don't have to be authoritative to do that. I don't have to be a good talker to do that. I don't have to dress well to do that. I just got to be willing to listen and be transparent, understand that person, and bend. And the number one way to understand that person is to listen to them. Do all of us have the capacity to listen, yes or no? Do all of us have the capacity to see someone else's style and change? Maybe not. That's why we provide you tools and exercises to help you with that, which means that all of us can be a leader. All right, transition quickly, because we've only got about 11 minutes left. Now, the advantage of spending 3 weeks together is that we can take a week or 2 to unpack something. In the coming days, we're going to unpack a strategy for expanding your sphere of influence. What's a sphere of influence? What does that mean, a sphere of influence? What's a sphere of influence? What's that?
Your volume of action.
Okay. What's a sphere of influence? What does that mean, a sphere of influence?
People you deal with.
Hold on, go ahead. Go ahead. The people what?
Whom you influence.
Okay, the people who you influence?
People you deal with.
People you deal with? People you need to work with. So, your sphere of influence is the people that you can get to do something. That's your sphere that you can influence. Now, in the coming days, there will be a week. It's not next week, but the following week. I'm going to send you an email every day. For 4 days, actually. Not every day. 4 days. It might be next week. I think it's the following week. I'm not sure. But one of the next 2 weeks, you're going to get an email every day. And it's going to unpack the strategy that I'm going to give you an overview of right now. And it's about expanding your sphere of influence. Today, if I want to get something done, I've got to be able to connect with people of influence and then get those people of influence to move. Because if I can get the right 10 or 12 people, or 7 to 12 people to do something, back up. If I can get the right 7 to 12 people to get on board with what I want to do, how many would agree with me it's going to happen? The right 7 to 12 people. Like if you stood up in town and could get the right 7 to 12 influencers in town to get in alignment with what you want to do, would you agree with me it would get done? Yes or no? Yes. Yes. Now, what's the difference between a person of influence and a person of prominence? Their sphere of influence. Why else? What else? Person of prominence, person of influence. What's the difference? Person of prominence. What's
Prominence is the title, the influence is the relationship itself.
Could be. That's very good. How many of you know somebody who everybody knows and everybody thinks they're a joke? In other words, they're very prominent, but they don't have any influence whatsoever. How many of you know somebody like that? How many of you know somebody that nobody knows but has a whole bunch of influence? Like when you walk into a classroom and there's a teacher, but there's a kid running the class. How many of you have ever seen that? Or in the workplace, how many of you know a person that does not have a title in the workplace but has an incredible influence on what goes on? You know the lady where we all go like this. Oh my God, what kind of a mood is Jane in today? And we all walk on eggshells with Jane. Does anybody work in that place with a Jane? Okay, how many of you are? No, don't tell me, I don't want to know. Listen now, that person has significant influence. It might be negative, but she has significant influence. Even bosses worry about Jane or a person like her. That's what I mean. Like when we go do a project in the community, here's what I always say. Find me the 5 moms with the loudest mouths because they have significant influence, right? Okay, step number 1 is, can I see who those people are? Not the people of prominence, not the people with the big flags, not those people. The people who are really influencing the situation. Sometimes, do I want to build a relationship with the CEO or do I want to build a relationship with his secretary? Or his executive administrative assistant. I want to build a relationship with the executive administrative assistant. Why? Because that way I'll know I'll always get a meeting. Does this make sense? So the first step is, can you see who the people of influence are? So if I want to expand my sphere of influence, here I am, and I want to get something done. The first thing I'm going to do is make a list of the people of influence that I need to get something done. Not the people of prominence. Who are the people of influence? And then I've got to ask myself, how do they relate to me? And I would color code them. Red, yellow, green. Red, they have no idea who I am. None whatsoever. Yellow, they may know who I am, but they're indifferent. Green, they know who I am, but they may not be a champion for the cause. And then my goal is to move them 1 notch. Now, why am I not saying move them to red to green? Why am I not saying move them to red to green? Because 1, it's probably not realistic. And 2, let's say this person is against me. And let's say they're even talking negatively about the thing I want to do. Do I need them to become a champion or do I just need them to get to shut up? I just need to get them to shut up. That's all I need. I don't need them to be a champion. Just shut up. Just stop running me down. Stop talking negative about what we're trying to do. So the people of influence. So this strategy that I'll unpack for you over a 4-day period works off the assumption that you don't have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of big network, you're not a person of influence, but how do I still get something done? In the workplace or in the community. Make sense? So I've got a few more minutes to do a quick overview on it, okay? Quick overview. And it kind of will bring together a number of the things that we've talked about tonight. Does anybody know how many media impressions a North American in a fairly large city like Fort McMurray gets hit with? Media impressions. Radio, commercial, television ad, a banner ad on a website, email, text, spam. How many in a month? Anybody know? 17,000. Add in the billboard, add in the sign down the hallway, all these media impressions, right? Blah, 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 blah. They're just hitting me every day, every moment of the day. So now all of a sudden, how's your thing going to resonate with me? Why is your charity going to hit me? Or why is your business going to make me purchase? So the strategy is called 100 Cups of Coffee. It's a relational marketing strategy. It's a trust-building strategy, because I think it's the only way to penetrate those 17,000 media impressions. You want to be a community leader, you'll understand how to get people involved. The only way to do that is a trusting relationship. But you've got to have some workable strategy to go build those relationships. So the first thing I do is identify the people I need to build the relationship with. Word of mouth marketing. How many of you have heard that? Gotta have the word of mouth marketing. You gotta have people talking. Word of mouth, word of mouth. Word of mouth marketing only works is if you have your words in the right mouths. If the guy walks up to me and says, oh, you gotta go to that Chinese restaurant. It's the best Chinese restaurant you ever seen in your life. And that boy's got ketchup stains on his chest and he got mustard stain on it. Am I going to that Chinese restaurant, yes or no? No. But when my good friend, Kwok Nujin, who is from Hong Kong, and I have a friend, Kwok Nujin, who is from Hong Kong, and when he walks up to me, he's like, dude, you got to go to that Chinese restaurant. How many of you know I'm going to that Chinese restaurant? Now, that is probably the most politically incorrect thing I've said tonight, but it makes the point. There's a guy that you know, and he knows everything about technology, but he's not in the technology business. He knows every gadget. He knows everything. When he tells you go buy a piece of technology, do you listen? Of course you do. Because you know he knows every gadget. He's read every book. He's read every website. He knows it. Those are the people that I need to be using their mouths to speak my words. Word of mouth marketing comes from this. Lexus came up with this about 10 years ago. They went and found the people that they called mavens. You want to read a great book on this? Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point. Great book. Great book. Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point. Great book. He and Lexus mavens. These were the people that knew everything about cars. And people in the workplace and in the neighborhood knew that Joe knew everything about cars. They totally loved cars. They were totally into cars. You know what Lexus did? Lexus went to those kind of people and said, here, drive our Lexus for a year. We'd like you to drive our new Lexus for a year. Because what did they know that that person would do? They would tell everyone, and because everyone looked at them and like, oh, you're Joe Carr. You know everything about car. And you're saying the Lexus is the best car? Yeah, the Lexus is the best car. And that was one of their marketing strategies for their high-end cars. How many say that's brilliant? Brilliant. American Idol. American Idol. What was the strategy on American Idol? Why is it so brilliant? Started in England, but why is it so brilliant?
Takes the average Joe, makes him a star.
But why is it even more brilliant than that, brother? You're looking at the service. You got to go deeper. Why is it even more brilliant? What was the biggest risk in a record company? What's the biggest risk? Years ago, what was the biggest risk? Before the American Idols of the world. I had to take somebody that nobody knew, and I had to guess that they were a star and put their record out. But you know what they did to you? They let you vote. You picked who the next star was, and what did they almost guarantee you would do? Buy the record! Tell me you didn't get manipulated. And then they took it to a whole nother level, and it's called The Voice, and you can buy the song Win right now. How amazing is that? Now here's the funny thing. What can we learn from that? We can learn that if I engage the right people, build a relationship with them, and they begin to trust me, I can almost guarantee what will they do with their mouth. And if they're a person of influence, how many people will they bring with them? A lot. So should we do shotgun marketing? I would suggest no. We should do a focused approach. Now we've only got a few minutes left, and that's why we're going to spread this out over 4 days. Here's the other key. And there is a whole little series of conversations that we'll have about how I set up this meeting. But when I set up the meeting with that person of influence, I'm not going to do this. This is what we would typically do. Hey, how are you? Good to meet you. You're the person of influence, and you're so awesome. Let me tell you about what we're doing. Let me tell you about everything that we're doing. Let me tell you. How many of you agree with me? That's what we would normally do. Let me convince you my thing is the coolest thing in the world. And how many of you know they're like, stalker, leave me alone. All over North America, people are yelling this. Don't sell me anything. Am I right or wrong? Don't sell me. Don't, and as soon as they feel like you're... So instead, and we'll unpack this, I'm going to use my listening skills, and I'm going to ask open-ended questions, and I'm going to listen for their hopes, their dreams, their desires. I'm going to do 80% of the listening and 20% of the talking. I'm going to try to figure out where they're going, and then show them how what they're doing is in alignment with what we're doing. Would you rather partner with somebody that puts your needs and your wants, your hopes and desires before theirs? Would you rather partner with that person? Or someone who's coming in to try to sell you? But how many of you agree with me? Most nonprofits and community-based organizations are in trying to sell the people of influence, right? Instead of building the trusting relationship. So in those 4 days, we'll talk about these techniques. Why? Because you have to have some strategy to expand your sphere of influence. If you've listened to anything I've said tonight, there's a fundamental shift. You can take advantage of that fundamental shift. We don't trust leaders anymore. We don't trust the website or the travel agent. We trust the stars and the smiley faces. So get your message into people of influence, build the relationship with them, and then let them influence the situation for you. How much does what I just say cost? How much does it cost? Some sweat. It costs this, some sweat. When we wanted to do a project in Kenya, I had no clue. I've never met anybody from Kenya in my life. But I sent out an email. Does anybody know anybody of influence in Kenya? I got an email back from a lady named Barb Hill. At the time, she was Director of Recreation and Parks in Red Deer, Alberta. Well, Ian, that's kind of funny. My roommate in college is now the ambassador from Canada to Kenya. Oh, how cool is that? 3 weeks later, I was having lunch at the Calgary Stampede with Peter Ungo, who was the ambassador at the time from Kenya to Canada and Cuba. Why? Because I reached out to people of influence, I asked for help, and I had a meeting. And that meeting led to a project in Kenya. Now, did that guy know me from Adam? Not from Adam. But he did know the ambassador from Canada. Did I know the ambassador from Canada? Not a lick. But I knew Barb Hill, who was her roommate. So it's not even who you know. It's who you know that knows somebody. We'll talk about that strategy. So it's not just who do I know, but it's the people that I know that know somebody. So don't whine and complain to me that you can't get something done. Don't tell me you can't build a sphere of influence. It's just about a strategy. And do you believe in yourself enough? That's why, what was the #1 question on the survey? What was the #1? I believe I can make a difference. Now, I already told you, I'm not the sharpest pencil in the box nor the brightest bulb in the chandelier. Every one of you in this room is more educated than me. Every single one of you. Barely graduated from high school. Couldn't read till I was 17 or 18. So it has nothing to do with talent. It has nothing to do with ability. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's about some basic fundamental principles that the times require. Now, once you get used to starting to see these things, you'll start to look proactively and say, I wonder what the times will require 2 years from now. I wonder what the times will require 5 years from now. What are those guys' names? Anybody know what that guy's name is? Steve Jobs. Billionaires. Yeah, they're billionaires. Because they just started saying, I wonder what the time will require in the future. I just don't think this is about birth. I don't think it's just some magic sprinkle. Sping, I'm a leader. No, man. I can't believe that. Now, maybe I have some propensity for certain things, but I think these can be learned traits. All right. Somebody tell me something you're taking away from tonight as we wrap up. Ooh, we're a little over. I apologize. Bye-bye. Somebody, bye. See you later. I'm sorry we went long. We started a little late. Quickly, somebody tell me something you're taking away from tonight. Listen. So remember your exercise. Next 7 days, listen like they're going to die at midnight. Okay, somebody else, something you're taking away from our time tonight.
Leadership is strengths.
Leadership is what?
Strengths.
That's right. That's right. Somebody else. What's that? Personal performance. It's about me getting better. It's not about the world changing around me. Yes? Did you say something, young lady?
Personal performance as well, but more like understanding who you are.
And then understanding.
How the other person.
That's right.
Build trust in your relationship.
Build trust. Absolutely.
Communicating the same way as others.
That's right. Adjusting my communication style to someone else's. Yes?
Somebody helped me become who I am, so I can help someone become what they become.
Listen to that. That was profound. Somebody helped me become who I've become, which means I can help somebody else become who they should become. Very good. Anyone else? Something you're taking away from tonight?
Sphere of influence.
Expand that sphere of influence. Right? And the only thing I would add to that is this. You don't have to be charismatic. You don't have to be a good talker. You don't have to be slick. You don't have to have a lot of money in your bank account. You don't have to come from the right family. You don't have to come from the right country. You don't need that. You just need to know how to walk out a strategy and then stay true to the strategy. Anybody else? Something you're taking away from tonight? All right. Monday, you will not get an email because of the Easter break, right? You'll get an email on Tuesday. So the next 3 weeks, right, we start unpacking the agent of change who understands, demonstrates, and exerts influence to act as a catalyst for change. Have a great night. See you guys later. Sorry we went long.